Alan McLeod. He is a senior staff writer and producer at Mint Press News. Alan, now we all know that the media is comprised, bought, and biased. That's why you are watching this show. But our next guest is an investigative journalist cataloging, the silent war on our screens on social media. Alan, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Minar.
Alan is our senior staff writer at Mint Press News, and some of the things that I mentioned in my introduction about Unit 8200 and Israel's surveillance state is actually from the work of the great Alan McLeod, who's with us right now. And this is why we call on all of the viewers at Moats TV to support our campaign on Indiegogo to help us fund and continue our very important investigative work at Mint Press News. So I want you to inform us about the extent to which Unit 8200 agents have penetrated Silicon Valley and, its influence that we see every single day online.
Yeah, sure. So I've done a string of investigations looking into Unit 8200, Israel's most elite and most controversial spying unit. And what I found shocked me, actually. It was very simple to find hundreds of former Unit 8200 agents working across Silicon Valley companies like Facebook, TikTok, Microsoft, Amazon. Even just looking on LinkedIn, you can find at least 99 former agents of Unit 8200 working at Google, and I also found 166 working at Microsoft as well. But it's not just the quantity, it's also the sorts of people who go from this controversial spying group, which is part of the IDF, Silicon Valley. Like, one example you might have commented on before already is Ray Medallion, who had a very long career in Unit 8200. She was actually an intelligence commander and became head of its cybersecurity operations team. Now, in the wake of the Israeli attack on Gaza in October 2023, Medallion moves to New York City and takes a job as global incident manager at TikTok's Trust and Safety division. So you really have to wonder what sort of global incidents TikTok is hiring this former commander of the most elite Israeli spying unit to manage for them. But TikTok is not the only one doing this. I mean, we could look at Ben Bariak, for example. Now, between 2007 and 2011, he was a cyber intelligence officer at Unit 8200, where in his own words, and I'm quoting here, he commanded strategic teams of elite officers and professionals in the field of cybersecurity. And today he's in product partnership manager for Google in London. But undoubtedly, I think perhaps the most influential person who's come out of Unit 8200 and is now working in Silicon Valley is Emmy Palmore. Now, she is one of the 20 or so people who are on Facebook's oversight board. And those are the people who ultimately decide the political direction of Facebook. They decide what is allowed, what isn't allowed, what sort of content will be promoted, and what sort of content will be suppressed. And as I said, she is a graduate of Unit 8200. She was also the general director of the Israeli Ministry of Justice. I mean, these are the sorts of people that Silicon Valley are actually hiring and bringing into their fold. And that's, of course, why we see so much suppression of pro-Palestine voices on big platforms like Instagram or Twitter or wherever you want. These voices are a threat to the establishment, and so they are ultimately suppressed. We have seen a series of campaigns from staff members at these Silicon Valley giants like Google and Facebook blowing the whistle about this and raising their objections to how closely these companies are working with the Israeli military and the Israeli government. But ultimately, their pleas fall on deaf ears, and very often these people are forced out of their businesses. Algorithms dominate our life, don't they? I mean, they ultimately decide what billions of people see every day and what they don't see. And that's why they're so important. I mean, we can see right now where Elon Musk seems to be changing the Twitter algorithm every day to suit his own political needs, that these things are not independent things that are just living in the ether. They're not neutral. They're actually written by people, and people's biases come into it, and people's political opinions come into it, and yeah, they affect everything that we see, read, and hear constantly. And so we have to really be looking at this. And if you're a more privacy-minded individual, I would also say check out some of my reporting on how Israeli companies own 3 of the 6 largest VPNs on the market right now as well. That Israeli company is of course set up and founded and run by Unit 8200 officers. So really, the extent to which Unit 8200 has embedded itself within internet culture in Silicon Valley is really extraordinary, and it's something anyone who cares about a free and just world should know about.
Well, to me, it sounds like this is a massive problem. It's a massive scandal, and perhaps it's a national security threat here in the United States. Can you outline more about what Unit 8200 is and its functions are within the Israeli military? And why, in your opinion, is this such a problem? Why should people care?
I guess Unit 8200 should be described as the centerpiece of Israel's high-tech surveillance and suppression industry. Unit 8200 is often called Israel's Harvard. You don't get into Unit 8200 by accident. In fact, rich families spend tens of thousands of dollars giving their teenage kids STEM lessons in science and technology, engineering, and mathematics in order to improve their grades so they will be selected for this very elite unit within the Israeli military. They do that because they know that once they graduate from Unit 8200, a wealthy and lucrative career in Silicon Valley awaits them, or in one of the burgeoning tech industry in Israel. Unit 8200, as I said, is really the centerpiece of the Israeli surveillance operation. Palestinians live their lives under constant Israeli bombardment, but also Israeli surveillance. And that is made possible by the tech that Unit 8200 develops. So people in Gaza, for example, walk around, but they are constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras, which track their every move. Often when they get to these checkpoints, the Israeli military guards at the border already know these people's names before they check their credentials, because they've got it up on the screen, because Unit 8200 has got all of this stuff on a database. They also check people's phones messages, they spy on their emails, look at their personal data, and this is all harvested and put into huge databases and used for compromise. So, for example, if a Palestinian is, secretly cheating on their partner, or is secretly gay, or needs a medical operation desperately, all of this sort of information can be used by the Israeli military to eke out, to extort certain either information or actions from these people, and they eventually force ordinary Palestinians into becoming informants for them. In fact, one whistleblower from Unit 8200 said that he was secretly trained how to recognize all the different Arabic slang words for gay, so he could look out for them on calls. Now, Unit 8200, as I said, is extremely controversial. It's also developed so much of Israel's high-tech weapons industry, which Israel has been using for years now on Palestine. Let me tell you a little bit about Project Lavender, which is an AI-generated kill list developed by Unit 8200 to get around the human bottlenecking targets that they used to have. What it does is it uses this ginormous amount of data they have on all Gazans and assigns every single Gazan, man, woman, and child, a score of between 0 and 100 based on how likely they think they are to be a Hamas member. And if your score reaches above a certain threshold, you are automatically put on the kill list and hit with AI weaponry such as drones. And that includes whether you're a child and sometimes even if you're a woman as well. If, for example, you live in the same building or the same apartment as a known Hamas official, that puts your score up. If you're in a WhatsApp group with somebody who they believe is a Hamas or PFLP member, that again puts your score up. So this is how the Israeli military managed to actually saturate Gaza with bombs, just constantly dropping things on anything that resembled a target back in 2023. Unit 8200 was also behind the infamous Lebanese pager attack, which happened exactly 1 year ago now. That pager attack was celebrated in Israel, but it was condemned all over the world, including by such, hardly like figures that are hardly like pro-Palestine, like, for example, the former CIA director Leon Panetta, who called it a major act of international terrorism. These are the sorts of highly controversial moves that Unit 8200 is behind. Its former staff were also behind the surveillance and hacking technology that we've seen all around the world, like the Pegasus app, which was used to spy on tens of thousands of politicians, foreign leaders like Emmanuel Macron, journalists, activists, anyone of public note. And Pegasus used this software to spy, as I said, on all sorts of people, but also sell it to repressive governments around the world. And the technology also had a backdoor in it, which allowed the Israeli military to look at all of this data that these repressive governments were amalgamating on all of these people. And of course, Pegasus was used by the Saudi monarchy when it was tracking Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post journalist. And they eventually cut him up into pieces with a bone saw in Turkey, didn't they? So ultimately, this is who Unit 8200 is. And that is why it is so inappropriate that these sorts of people who have been used, whose careers are dedicated to using tech to kill people or surveil people or hack into people's data, are now in charge of Silicon Valley companies, which we all trust implicitly with our most sensitive data, all of us, billions around the world all the time. And so we really have to be focusing on this and asking ourselves whether this is a personal security threat or a national security threat as well.
Well, it's a major threat because if you think about how addicted we all are to our cell phones, we sleep with our phones, we work from our phones, we talk from our phones, we communicate. It has become our lifeline. And when Netanyahu makes statements like, everybody who's holding a cell phone, you're holding a piece of Israel, that to me doesn't sound like a normal statement. It sounds like a direct threat that Israel is watching. And people need to know how serious this is. And all of this reporting, again, can be found on Mint Press News. Mint Press has exposed this network of Israeli Unit 8200 within the big tech sector in the United States. Now, the most recent news is that China and the US have come to a deal to keep TikTok alive in the United States. The deal will see the platform's US operations bought by an American consortium, reported to be headed by tech giant Oracle. But we should be watching out for this. This is no TikTok ban. But what does that mean for the US and for the rest of us? Alan, you did an investigation looking into Oracle, which has extremely close links to both US and Israeli intelligence. And of course, we have to remember that TikTok is the #1 app for young people right now. So tell us more about this and what you found.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know anything about Oracle or about its founder and CEO, Larry Ellison. Oracle's the 4th biggest tech company in the world, but it doesn't really sell to consumers. It sells to businesses. It sells gigantic databases and other software to businesses. And they don't know about Larry Ellison, despite the fact he's the world's 2nd richest person. And his son is just about to buy CBS News as well. Ellison got his career started by working for the CIA. And in fact, Oracle is named after Project Oracle, which was a CIA project that Ellison worked on back in the 1970s. And for years, Oracle didn't have a single customer except the CIA until it started bidding on other contracts for the US military and other 3-letter agencies. So ultimately, Oracle and Ellison made their billions being the private face of the CIA. The CIA doesn't want to do things in-house anymore. It would much rather outsource these things to private companies who are not under the discretion of the Freedom of Information Act. And, journalists don't snoop into private companies' dealings as much as they would if it was the CIA. But Ellison is an extraordinarily powerful man within Silicon Valley, and he is also a pro-Israel zealot. In fact, I would say he's probably Israel's most powerful supporter in Washington, who is not actually a politician. Uh, Ellison is the IDF's largest donor. He in 2017 gave $16.6 million in one check alone to the Friends of the IDF, which, if people don't know, is a quote-unquote charity in the United States, which buys equipment and supplies for IDF soldiers. They hold these big galas in Hollywood and get people like Pharrell Williams and Gerard Butler to get on stage and say wonderful things about how wonderful the IDF and Israel is. But Ellison, apart from making billions, his real passion in life is supporting Israel and the Israeli project. Here's a quote from one of these galas he was attending. He got up on stage and said this, quote, "In my mind, there is no greater honor than supporting the bravest people in the world. And I thank the Friends of the IDF for allowing us to celebrate and support these soldiers year after year. We should all do what we can to show these heroic soldiers that they are not alone." So that's really Ellison's mindset. He actually offered Benjamin Netanyahu a place on Oracle's board recently when it looked, just before the Gaza genocide, it looked like Netanyahu might be getting forced out in Israel. That salary was replete, that position was replete with a salary of reportedly about $500,000. Ellison used to fly Netanyahu out to his private island so they could holiday together. The CEO of Oracle is also an Israeli. Her name is Safra Katz. And when Oracle employees started protesting the company's very close relationship with Israel, she told them the whole purpose of Oracle from the start was to support Israel. This is a quote from Safra Katz, the CEO of Oracle. "We are not flexible regarding our mission, and our commitment to Israel is second to none. Larry Ellison and I are publicly committed to Israel and devote personal time to the country." And that's the end of the quote. And she said, those who don't accept that should just leave and go somewhere else. So ultimately, Oracle is an organization that should be nowhere near owning or having any say within our means of communication or our media outlets. So, we're seeing this company take over CBS. Looks like they're going to be taking over TikTok as well. That bodes very, very badly for freedom of speech online and also a diversity of opinion in US corporate media as well.
Well, that's quite the bromance you broke down between Larry Ellison and Bibi Netanyahu, but it really just goes to show just the way in which the Israeli intelligence tentacles are really taking over the US tech industry. And I know we have a lot of British viewers tuned in right now. So we have a special question for them, or not for them, but for you about the UK. For our British viewers, people should know about just how ingratiated this company is with the UK state, with the British state. This company, which you have outlined, Oracle, is basically a front group for US intelligence, has access to much of the UK's most sensitive information and data, including health and military records. And I think every British citizen should be raising hell about this. Talk to us more about this connection, Alan.
Oh yeah, I mean, Oracle now has access and is pretty much in charge of a wide swath of public and military data, including some of the most important personal data that we have in the United Kingdom. An example of this is is in 2020, Oracle won a gigantic contract with the UK Ministry of Defence to provide it with cloud infrastructure, digital assistance, data visualization software, development tools, the whole shebang, really. The British military, at least the Ministry of Defence, basically runs on Oracle software now. And the army is not the only British institution that's entrusting its most important and critical data to this US-based firm. The Home Office, for example, the Office of National Statistics, and very importantly, the NHS, the National Health Service, also rely on Oracle databases to function. So, what does that mean? That means that this Larry Ellison guy presumably has access to all of our medical records, and given his closeness with both the CIA and with the Israeli National Security State, that should really be raising enormous alarm bells. Even years before signing this Ministry of Defense agreement that I was talking about just earlier, Oracle and Larry Ellison had really been pushing themselves into the British establishment, employing all manner of really well-connected individuals at their foundation. I mean, just an example, Larry Ellison and the Oracle Foundation employed the father-in-law of Boris Johnson while Boris Johnson was Prime Minister. His name's Matthew Simons, and he reportedly earned around $600,000 a year for being the executive director of the Larry Ellison Foundation. Richard Meredith, again, the longtime director of the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, was also snapped up on a similar salary to become executive director. And suddenly, when Oracle got all of these contracts, the Larry Ellison Foundation was closed down, which does raise some questions about potential corruption issues there. Larry Ellison, of course, or at least his foundation, bankrolled the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change as well. So, Ellison likes to support former Conservative prime ministers, but also former Labour prime ministers as well. He's like an equal opportunity oligarch in that sense. But for sure, for the rest of us, this is a very worrying and very concerning development, because we really shouldn't want people with this much power and this much connections to have the sort of influence they do over the military, over the health service, and the Home Office as well. That spells disaster for democracy.
Absolutely. And if I was somebody who is in Britain, I would definitely be concerned with this information. And Alan, we really appreciate you joining us. I know you're in Singapore. It's like 4 a.m. and you just laid out all of these facts so eloquently. So thank you so much for being here. And as everybody has heard, this is the kind of coverage and investigations that we provide at Mint Press News. And right now we are actually in a place where we might have to shut down because one of our lines of funding has been cut. So we launched a fundraiser on Indiegogo, and we hope that you will join our campaign to support the incredible work that we provide at Mint Press News, as you just heard from the very mouth of one of our leading investigative journalists, senior staff writer, Alan McLeod.